right, so I have one more little coaching moment here that I'm going to share with you guys. Kind of a little bit of a summary of some of the stuff we heard earlier today. And then we're going to get back into some fun with Rebecca on laughter and leadership. So one thing, switch hands here. I think it really touches on some of the stuff that Sally talked about earlier today, that bias that we often have for perfection. She talked a lot about Marshall's book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And I can tell you that one of the things I prided myself on as I was coming up in my career was being a perfectionist. I grew up that way. I was always the smartest kid in the class. I had to get the best grades. I had to beat all the boys when I was running in the races. I mean, had to be the best at everything, right? And I think a lot of us sitting in this room probably felt a lot the same way, and you probably wouldn't be sitting here unless you did, right? And so as we think about that bias for perfection and what Sally taught us earlier today, and as you become a leader, or as you grow into broader and broader leadership positions, I want you to know that it's okay to make mistakes, right? We all make them. And in fact, when you make mistakes, I think it makes you more human. And I reflect back on a story that I like to tell. When I was going to grad school, so I told you guys I went to Purdue, I was looking into assistantship positions. So, kind of poor back then, had no money, wanted to get that job so that I could actually afford to pay Purdue the tuition that it took to get the MBA there. And I found the perfect position. I was, not even in the program yet, so I was, first of all, really thankful that I had even gotten accepted into this program, feeling very grateful about that. And then I had found this perfect position. It was working in the Career Services Center, and it was teaching kind of the management, they called it Management 113 class, which was all about resume writing, interviewing, kind of the career building class through the Career Services Center for undergraduate students. And I thought, perfect. I've been working in HR for a couple of years. I can give, all this great advice to all these students as they're graduating, getting jobs. So I sent my application in. And as back in those days, all it was just an email that I sent over to the decision maker who ran the Career Services Center. And as I, worked really hard to get my resume looking perfectly, to put that perfect email together to send over to her, I send it off and I forget my resume. And I'm looking at it and I'm rereading it. I'm like, can't believe that attachment didn't go through. So I do it again. And again, it goes through with no resume attached. So that's twice. And I'm like, oh my God. Super stressed out. I'm never going to get this job, never going to be able to afford my tuition. And what I found out, so I got the job, by the way. Yay for me. I was super happy, awesome experience. And when I, got to know this leader of the Career Services Center, she told me later the reason she picked me for the job was because I forgot twice to send my resume and had to send her an email back that said, oops, I'm so sorry. I forgot to send my resume again. And she said, and she was kind of a goofy person herself. She wasn't perfect. She knew it. I think she, was very wise in her years of experience that she had. But she liked that. It made me human. It made me not perfect. And so a takeaway from today is don't feel like you have to be perfect with everything you do. And also, don't expect your employees to have perfection either, because it's just an unrealistic expectation, right? And then the last little takeaway, so Sally's talked about Marshall Goldsmith, and one of the things that I've learned from Marshall, who is, executive coach to, many, many very successful executives, Fortune 100 CEOs, Ford Motor Company CEOs, those kind of things. One of the things that he teaches, and he actually taught it, some of you who attended the Women's Leadership Summit a year ago or a year and a half ago might remember him talking about, oh well. Do you remember that at all? So, and I'm going to compare myself right now to my husband, right? Because we just talked about the male and female brains. And, you know, we actually run a business together. So we work together really, really closely a lot of times. And he can blow stuff off. He can not worry about what someone said to him so easily. And I get to watch him do this almost every single day. He just says, oh, well, and he moves on. Whereas with me, it will eat me alive for the next 3 hours thinking, oh my gosh, I said the wrong thing to that person. Or, oh my gosh, I forgot to send Lori that email. I meant to send her, you know? Like, it will eat me alive. I won't sleep that night because I'll be thinking all night long about how I forgot to do something that day. So what Marshall teaches is literally remembering that when your brain starts to go in that direction, say the 2 words, oh well. And last year at the summit, what he taught us was this hand motion. Anyone remember that? Oh well. Oh well. And you wouldn't believe, just try it. Because it actually, the act of doing that, I'm not a brain science person, but the act of doing that actually just sends it off somewhere into thin air. Right? So remember that. Oh well. I actually have coined my own term, which is up on the screen. It's not quite as appropriate. But I know some of the women who have worked for me over the years, and I'm reflecting back on our days at Pepsi, that I don't know how Erica has endured so many more years at Pepsi, because it broke me in half, man. But I remember the days when, you know, we had, anybody who's ever worked in a unionized environment, holy moly. So battling the Teamsters, I'm looking back here at my Pepsi friends. I remember sitting in the office of one of the HR managers that worked for me in San Diego. So she had this beautiful office, beautiful location, actually great workforce, but they were highly unionized. And she was crying. So whoever brought up the crying, right? So she was crying in her office. I was in there, I was consoling her because we had been through some of the toughest months, just like pull your hair out, awful times battling these unions for about 3-4 months or so. And I said to her, look, you need to just say F-I. You need to develop a little bit more of the F-I attitude that Mandy, your boss, I'm telling you to do this, okay? I'm telling you to just say F-I. Because at the end of the day, you know, Pepsi's going to go on. The Teamsters are probably never going to leave. And there's a lot of things that you can't control and you can't change. So why are you killing yourself over this? Because at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. So you can remember probably the much better way of saying it, which is, oh well, oh well. Or you can remember Mandy Clark's way with the F-I attitude. That's it.